Hi, today I'm going to be going over the psych and behavioral health pharmacology, and this is part one. So the first drugs we're going to start off with are the SSRIs. And after I drew this beautiful picture, I thought of a better idea about the fact that I could have drawn this on a ship because then it would be like the SSRI. So we're still going to pretend that. We're just going to say that this is like a really fancy boat and this is like the captain's quarters. It's the fanciest room on the SSRI. So these drugs are used for depression, anxiety, OCD, PTSD, and phobias. So I'll start with all the drugs that are in this category. And I have them listed down here, and I've this time around I've put the in parentheses like what item in this room is referring to that drug. So we have Prozac, which is a potato sack, a sack of potatoes. Prozac is the brand name. Fluoxetine is the generic. Then we have a love seat for Luvox or fluvoxamine. We have this Alexa device here with a birthday hat because they are celebrating, party hat celebrating for celebratory Alexa, or Celexa is the drug, or generic name is citalopram. And then moving on, we have a little package here, a parcel for Paxil or Paraxetine. And then here we have this loft, and it is above the zoo animals because it's a zooloft. And then last but not least, we have this book of encyclopedias here, and that is representing Lexapro because the word like lexicon refers to like reference books or English language, things like that. So encyclopedias. And so you may notice in this scene here, we have these stairs that go to the loft, but the stairs only go halfway. And this is to demonstrate the MOA for these SSRIs. So we know SSRI stands for selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, but the stairs here are only about 5 feet tall, 5-HT. That's the abbreviation for serotonin. And so therefore it's going to inhibit you from going upstairs. So it's a reuptake inhibitor. And then our adverse effects are nausea. So we have a vomit bag. Weight changes. That's why we have this little scale on the table. Drug interaction. So we have some spilled pills on the table as well. And then SIADH, which I think is like the very sod. You just pronounce the word SIADH. So we have a very sod rhino over here because he's dead. He's mounted on the wall. So those are your SSRIs. Now we're going to move on to the SNRIs, and these are for depression, anxiety, PTSD, and phobias. And I changed, so venlafaxine was previously drawn as this cat with the violin or the fiddle, and then we had Cymbalta and Salavella previously, but I still incorporated them in the picture, but I changed it just a little bit. But anyway, these are serotonin and norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors. So the drugs in this category are venlafaxine. So I just changed this to a fax machine with our previous drawing on it. And then this new drug, which we haven't talked about, is desvenlafaxine or Prestige. And I think Prestige sounds like pristine clean. So we have Mr. Clean because he's pristine. So Mr. Clean here is playing the cymbals for Cymbalta. And he's salivating while playing the cymbals for Savella. And the adverse effects for these drugs drugs are anticholinergic. So he has a cactus on his shoulder because anticholinergic effects are always dry eyes, dry mouth, urinary retention, things like that, dryness. So cactuses are dry. Sedation. So there is a seed over here, GI issues, and then sexual dysfunction. So I have these little gender symbols and they're sad because they're dysfunctioning. And then also the MOA is shown right here in the middle. Again, we have some repeat drugs, and I've changed the picture just a little bit to hopefully make it more clear. So these are our TCAs, or tricyclic antidepressants. They're obviously for depression, anxiety, and phobias. And so I'll read the story that I have that go along with this picture, and then I'll kind of break it down. So Elvis was talking to his honey, or his hun, Pamela, on the phone when she suddenly went silent. Elvis got worried and wanted to check on her, but Pam was way too far to run to. So he had to hop on his tricycle and he couldn't figure out which way to go. And he didn't know whether he should go northeast or southeast or whatever. Okay, so, oh, and I totally forgot to mention, he was very desperate to get to Pam. Okay, so Elvis is representing the drug Alavil. He was talking to his honey. That is one of the adverse effects. I'll get to that. But anyway, Pamela. Pamela is representing the drug Pamelor. And then he was on the phone. It suddenly went silent. Silent for the drug Selenor. And she was too far to run to. That's for the drug tofranil. So too far ran to run to. And so he hopped on his tricycle, which represents that they're tricyclic antidepressants. And then this whole northeast, southeast thing, whatever, is just the MOA. So these are also serotonin and norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, just like our SNRIs, but they just have a different structure. And the adverse effects. Oh, and I gotta mention too, he was very desperate to get to Pam, desperate for despyramine. So adverse effects are anticholinergic. So we have this cactus, seed for sedation, the orthostatic hypotension. Hypotension is abbreviated like that. And so like his honey, Elvis's honey. And then it is fatal in overdose. Elvis died. Now we are going to move on to our MAOIs. Again, these are repeats, but I changed the drawing just a little bit, added some extra stuff. So I always thought MAOI sounded or looked kind of like the word Maui. And so we have this Hawaiian scene here with Maui from the movie Moana. So MAOI stands for monoamine oxidase B inhibitors, which may inhibit the reuptake of dopamine. So you can remember the monoamine oxidase B inhibitors because that's what MAOI stands for. But then to help remember this extra part about may inhibit the reuptake of dopamine, on Maui's grass skirt here, we have a weed leaf dope, and it's got a X next, or a red circle next to it for inhibiting dopamine. So the drugs in this category we have this drug Parnate, so a parrot for Parnate, a parrot mate. And then we have the seagull on a line for selegiline, like selegiline, seagull on a line. We have this ice box or cooler, ice box for isocarboxazid. Isocarboxazid. And then we have this dill pickle. He's just big chillin', dill pickle. And he's wearing flannel. So he's wearing flannel in case you want to help you remember the generic name of phenylazine. And then he's a dill pickle for Nardil. That's the brand name. Adverse effects are nausea. So there is a vomit bag on Molly's chest. Hallucinations, he's got crazy eyes here. And then dyskinesia. So I just put these little squiggly lines next to him, kind of similar to like tremors, I guess. So those are your MAOIs. And then this picture, unfortunately, I forgot to color, so my apologies, but these are just other drugs for depression. These three that I have here all have the same MOA, and then from this point on, there are more drugs that are just in the other category, but they're all for depression. So, and the idea behind this picture is that this rich family rented a villa house, and then the kids were playing Nerf guns, and then they saw a snake, and so they hired a snake charmer to charm the snake. So, Villa is for the drug vilazodone, and they're playing Nerf guns for the drug nefazodone. And then this snake charmer is putting the snake into a trance for trazodone. The MOA for these is that they are a serotonin agonist, which is shown serotonin is 5-HT, so this kid is a height of 5 foot, serotonin agonist. It's also a histamine antagonist, so that's why we have a snake here, and he's hissing for histamine, and he's next to an ant for antagonist. And then this drug is also an alpha 1 antagonist. And so this kid, he's like, I'm on team alpha. He's all by himself. It's one kid on this alpha team, and he's also by an ant for alpha 1 antagonist. The adverse effects are priapism, so it's trying to make it sort of subtle, but anyway, his tail is erect for priapism. And then we have, again, a seed for sedation. So again, just more drugs for depression. We have mirtazapine. So this is for my Harry Potter fans. We have Moaning Myrtle, Myrtle for mirtazapine. And she is in a bathroom. She just came out of the toilet and she's throwing these blocks, these alpha blocks at this kid. And this kid's shooting other stuff out of his wand, norepinephrine and serotonin. And then also we just drew a Slytherin symbol because we needed a snake in the picture. So the MOA for mirtazapine is that it blocks alpha 2 receptors. So that's why we have two blocks that have alphas on them. Alpha blocks alpha 2 receptors. And then it increases the release of norepinephrine and serotonin. So that's why there's little up arrows with the increases in these. And then it is also a histamine antagonist. So again, we have a slither that is a snake for Slytherin, and he is hissing. And there is a small ant here for antagonist. Adverse effects are shown on the toilet, which are anticholinergic. Again, dry eyes, dry mouth, things like that. And then a seed for sedation. Next is bupropion, and this is again a repeat. So this is a photo booth, and these people have their photo booth props. So booth props for bupropion or bupropion. And they were smoking dope in their hand, and therefore they're not allowed in the photo booth. I'm sorry, but you can't smoke weed while taking selfies. So that is to represent the MOA of dopamine and norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor. So they're smoking dope and they're inhibited from getting to the brain. Adverse effects are dry mouth. So just think about the lip prop here that we have. Agitation, he looks agitated. And then weight loss. So this guy lost a lot of weight. He's very skinny. Next, we have ketamine and esketamine. And so we have an Eskimo holding a very mean, well, sorry, we have a mean Eskimo and a mean key. And he's by his igloo that says NMDA on it because these are NMDA antagonists. So ant, we have an ant for antagonist. Adverse effects are dissociative reaction. So um, I was thinking like he's pretty dissociated from reality because he thinks he needs a key to get into his home, his igloo. Also station, nausea, vomiting, acute hypertension. So I just have increased blood pressure written on his um, Eskimo suit. And then drug abuse. He is holding a bong for drug abuse. And moving on, again, this is for depression. Now we're going to move on to buspirone or buspar, and this is for anxiety. And so buspirone, so we have a pie bus, a bus that has a pie. And if you don't remember that and you remember buspar, the headlights here are supposed to look like golf balls because golf is like, associated with par. So buspar, whatever. And it is a serotonin, so 5-HT1A and 5-HT2 agonist. So two ways kind of to remember this. Again, I always think 5-HT, that's the height of like 5'1", 5'2". So we're gonna pretend this bus is that tall. And then to remember like this 1A part, well, like we have one apple pie, 1A, one apple pie. Adverse effects are dizziness. So the bus is dizzy, and then drowsiness. The bus driver has passed out, and there's little sleeping Z's. And this is for anxiety, not depression, just anxiety. Next drug I'm going to talk about is hydroxyzine, which brand names are Atarax and Vistaril. These are also for anxiety. And so the picture here is that we have a nice vista view with a mean snake on the tarmac. So a vista view, and then we have like this like Windows Vista for Vistaril, and then he's on the tarmac, Atarax. So he's a mean snake and he's hissing. And he's next to an ant. So this is a histamine antagonist. And he's kind of in the desert. So adverse effects are your dry mouth. And then he is drowsy. He's got disease coming off. Now this picture is again a repeat from our cardio unit, and the picture doesn't really, the only drug that we have to know for this section is the prazosin, and the picture really didn't make a whole lot of sense unless I explained the rest of it. So I drew a dachshund dog for doxazosin, and he was peeing on a terracotta pot for terrazosin, and then I couldn't really come up with a drawing for prazosin. I just drew like primrose flowers. So primrose starts with PR, and that was just supposed to help you remember prazosin. So ignore these other drugs, just focus on your prazosin. And so anyway, but we have an alpha dog peeing on a primrose plant that has an ant on it. So that is to represent that it is a centrally acting alpha 1 antagonist. So alpha 1, he's an alpha, we have one alpha dog, and he is peeing on this ant for antagonist. And then whoever the dog's owner is like, honey, no, don't pee on that plant. So honey or hun for hypotension. That's the adverse effect. And last but not least, for this section, we just have some more benzodiazepines. So I want to remind you of this picture. So all of our benzodiazepines are here. So they're all, we have like this barber shop for phenobarbital, and we have the Lorax for lorazepam, and he's vacuuming for Valium. He's vacuuming up the garbage because these are GABA augmenters, and then a clown who's juggling for Clonopin or clonazepam. And so keep these pictures in mind, and I will try to pretend that these go along with it. So this lumberjack here, he has a really nice beard, and he needed to go to the barber shop for phenobarbital. So he goes to the barber, and they put this beard serum on his beard, some serum. So serum for this Cerax, and he's holding an axe. So serum and axe, Cerax. Lo and behold, this whole scene actually takes place by the Liberty Bell. Liberty Bell for Librium. And when you're cleaning up all this garbage, your hands get gross. And so you want some disinfecting wipes, you want some Clorox wipes because we're brand name people. We don't like off-brand stuff. And that is so Clorox wipes for chlorazepate, Clorox. And then we have an alpaca for alprazolam, which is Xanax. I probably remember Xanax rather than alprazolam, but alprazolam was easy to draw. So anyway, these benzodiazepines, they are used for anxiety, phobias, and restless leg syndrome. I just went through the drugs. They all augment GABA. So again, augment means to increase. So I have this garbage shown along the bottom. It starts out small and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's being augmented. And then this garbage also represents our adverse effects. So we have a seed for sedation, an apple for abuse potential. We have American cheese for amnesia, CNS depression. So that's shown here again on this alpaca. His CNS is sad, it's depressed. And then this is a new one. So withdrawal seizures. So I incorporated that into this Clorox picture because when you withdraw the wipe from the Clorox box, you get these seizure spikes. That's all I got. And then it is fatal. This one's a new one too. Fatal and overdose with other CNS depressants were alcohol. So one of the garbage pieces here is a broken alcohol bottle with a skull on it because if you take benzodiazepines with alcohol and other CNS suppressants, you will die if you overdose. All right, so on that happy note, I'm going to end part one. Stay tuned for part two.